I just beat Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, 11 years in the making. Very proud of myself, man. Very proud of myself. It took a lot out of me. Took a lot out of me. Again, I've, don't get me wrong, I've seen the ending. I just never played part 3. And finally, when the Legendary Edition came back out, I told myself I was going to play all of them. 1, 2, and 3. And finally see how the story ends. My team, see how the story ends. I started from the beginning, 1 to 2 to 3, and it just really dawns on you. There's not it really just dawns on me that there's not a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of game studios who's trying to copy this genre of gaming. Choices that you made from the first game, the second game, fall up to the third game. Why is no one copying this? Why is no one thinking about the longevity of their game? What is happening here? That's a really good question. Like, what is happening here? You don't think that building your game up? I guess they just don't have enough faith in their games in general. Because BioWare has done it, and but Dragon Age also, but as not as strong as Dragon Age. Dragon Age, every game you're playing is a different protagonist. Cool. But Commander Shepard's name rings bells throughout the motherfucking galaxy, dog. And what is going on? Where are these people? Why are people looking at the blueprint and like, alright, let's tailor our game to this. Let's make your choices really matter. Let's make your choices carry to the next game. Let's just, go as hard as we possibly can on this first game. And then to the point that it's just like, you know what? We might not get a second game. Let's go so hard into our first game that we don't even know if we might have a second game. That's how hard I need some of these game directors to actually play, especially with these story-driven games. But again, let's go back. Let me tailor it back. Mass Effect is just 1, 2, and 3, the Legendary Edition. Andromeda was okay, gameplay-wise. Story, I hated everybody. The characters, I didn't care for them. Again, maybe they made the Mass Effect Legendary Edition characters too good. When you seen other people, we're like, yo, what? We just didn't care enough. Now, I've beaten the first 2 games about 7 times each, trying to get every possible change that I possibly get throughout the story, tweaks and everything like that. What if I talk to this person? What if I go do this first? What if I don't bring this person with me? I tried everything. With a single player game that makes you want to replay it after beating it. Again, if you guys know me, I'm not even a trophy hunter type person. I just wanted to see how much the story changed if I did certain things. It's just crazy. So, after finally seeing the ending, the Citadel DLC, I'm going to get into all that. But it's just like, Mass Effect 3, a great send-off. A lot of people were talking shit. Again, I come to the conclusion that already that all these people who's like, oh, this game's not that good. I found that out about The Last of Us 2. I really enjoyed that. People were talking shit about that game, and then I came back and played it myself, and I'm just like, this game is actually great. The points that they were making and how hard they felt was just straight non-existent to me. Same thing with Mass Effect 3. We can say that the 3 or 4 endings that you have, they're not really blah blah blah. But again, you have to understand that they're taking into consideration everything you have done throughout the whole entire game, and they're trying to tie it up in a neat little bow. And once you accept that, it's just like, alright, this is 3 different games. They're trying to bring it home. You got to give them a little leeway in what's happening. Again, with the way your characters can change, characters don't make it, you just blatantly just don't recruit some people. Things like that, actions like that, really let us know that we're not playing your story, we're playing our story when we play these games. We make the choices, for good or bad, throughout our game, and it's tailored to us. It's more tailored to us. And I don't understand why a lot of games are not copying the format. Now, let's talk about Mass Effect 1, OG. You had people on your team in Mass Effect 1. I should just talk about spoilers. Fuck it. Let me just talk about spoilers at this point. It's been 11 years, man. Let me just talk about spoilers. You had people on your team that had to make the ultimate sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice. Now, again, I'm not going to remember specific names of planets and stuff like that. But when you had to choose between Ashley and, what's his name? Uh, the other human. Again, I killed him every time, so it's kind of fucked up. Is it Caden? I'm pronouncing his name wrong. But when you had to choose between the two to stay on the planet and make sure the bomb goes off, that shit had me sweating bullets. Because again, you don't really know what you want to do at that point. Like, you've been with them long enough. You've been with them quite a while. And then when you have to make that choice, like, it's locked in. There's no going back on that. That specific choice follows you out through the rest of the series. You choose which one of them are no longer in the series after that point. 1, 2, and 3. Just gone. And they take one for the team. Like, they don't bitch and moan. You ask them to do it, they stand up and just do it. And they know what's at stake. Again, the pressure is really on when you get to the third game, but you understand. Once things like this start happening, you understand that this shit is crazy. You make your team up with alien race. You have Ashley, who's an alien racist in the beginning, human first, you know, nationalist. I don't know how to use that towards aliens, but whatever you want to call it. You had Keaton, who was a genetic, like basically a test subject. The first test subject. He was the first, one of the first. He has a second biotic implant, and fucking, he's always in pain. He has to take like painkillers and shit like that, and shit don't really work. The first ones drew people crazy, and they started killing people. These are the people you just have to choose between. Now, Ashley is a way better just being a space racist. So I shouldn't just label her that, but that was something I picked up on way early in the game. But again, if you understand her background, her parents were in the war. I mean, her family's been in the war when the first contact war. So you understand why she kind of hates aliens. Because again, aliens came through, putting their chest out, poking the humans, and we went to war, and we were losing people daily because aliens came at with way better equipment than us, and we had to catch up. This is why we had to look into the biotics. This is why the first level of biotics drove people crazy. People's limbs are exploding. People's just went crazy shit. But it got better later on. But again, you start the game off. You meet these two people at some point, and you learn more about their story. Right there, world building. When you're after Sovereign or Sovereign, Sharon. When you're after Sharon, again, I'm going off names. I'm horrible at names. Just forgive me. The freaking Alien Spectre in part 1. You got Rex on your team. If you haven't been chopping up with Rex, engaging him, making sure you and him are cool, you might lose Rex throughout the whole series. And I fucking love Rex. I fucking love him, man. I just love that race. They all just make it. They just make it. Again, understanding his background is his people. There's people using. It's basically his people were used as fodder for a war that helped win a war, right? And then that the other races, other alien races, didn't want to step them up in the standings with the other races. So like, if you lost way more people than everyone else, and they didn't want to elevate your race after because you put in way more work than the other races, I could kind of understand what's going on here. Like, you're not going to have us put in the most work and we don't get none of the benefits. Then they made it genocide. Made it so that their kin can barely have children. Fucked up their whole breeding. And when you meet Rex, you learn that Spectre is trying to cure it. Now, We're not gonna say the guy didn't have ulterior motives when trying to cure it, but he's trying to cure it. And when you get to that point, it's just like, hey, he may be doing a lot of bad, but curing this virus that's hurting my people can change the course of his species for years to come. So when you get to that point that he's talking to you, he pulls out his gun, he's like, I don't really know who's friend or foe anymore. It's understandable. Just know that it's understandable. It's like, yo, this is the only person who's looking out to look into curing this thing that's hurting all of his people. And at that moment, if you didn't do everything right, you can lose him. Because he pulled out his gun and he's looking at you. He's just like, yo, man, I know we did a bunch of things, but this is for my people, dog. And I'm just like, yo, you shoot him, someone else on your team shoot him, and he's just gone. Just gone, man. Huh. Again, they don't make stories like this, dog. When was the last time you were excited for a game story that was this heavy hitting? Don't get me wrong, there probably is some games that I haven't really reviewed or played myself that I felt like this, but Mass Effect just hits different. Can you say I'm a fanboy of Mass Effect? You probably can. You probably can. But I'm not blind to the shit that they've done. But when you play Mass Effect 1, you play Part 2, and you finally finish it up with 3, different. It hits different. Now, Mass Effect 2, first 5 to 10 minutes, you were just catching L's, dog. Ship is attacked. This is happening. This is happening. People just getting sucked out of airlocks. People are dying left and right. You can help your main man Joker, get him to safety. Another blast hits. You get sucked out into space. Your suit's losing air. You can't contact anyone. And you die. You die. Now, what I didn't say in the first half about Mass Effect 1, Cerberus comes through. They rebuild you. They rebuild you. And you're back at it. Now, again, you always know that the collectors and all them, they're coming. You know that they're coming. The humans know that they're coming. Some of the other alien races don't even want to believe that they're coming. They want to believe that you settled everything in the first game. But no. They don't want to give you what you need. They don't want to supply you with any type of intel. They don't even want to look into it. But the only team that wants to do it is Cerberus. And again, you were hearing how they were crazy in part 1. They were doing a lot of experimental tests. They were doing a lot of bad. But they're the only one looking into this future global, I should say global, I should say galactic threat. They're the only one looking into it. So you team up with them, and you try your best to get the mission done. All right? This is the suicide mission arc, all right? The suicide mission arc. Literally, everyone on your team can die. Everyone, including yourself. Again, new team. The stakes basically as high, like, from part 1, stakes were high. Part 2, the stakes are even higher. Even higher. New characters, new background stories for these new characters, old favorites coming back. The game looks better, plays better. It was a little clunky in part 1, a little clunky, but it's smoother. And again, in part 1, you have to literally drop down to every planet and actually drive around and search for all these supplies, stuff like that you needed. They have to do that in part 2. You just scan the planets. Again, I like that they did that in part 2, but then after playing it again in part 2, I'm glad that they took it out in part 3. Now, it's still scanning on the planets in part 3, but it's not as deep as, oh, you gotta do this and this. It's not as deep in all that. It's strictly ready to business. But again, world building, top tier. The new characters, expanding people's backgrounds, learning more about your old favorites. Again, DLC. The DLC was good. The DLC was good, and again, if you play the DLC in part 2, certain DLC characters show up in part 3. Again, why is no one else doing this? What is going on? It's like they're allergic to greatness. They gotta be. They gotta be allergic to greatness. Now I know I talked about everything and about the suicide mission. You pick who you want to do certain things. If they're not the right person for it, and when you since you're the person making the calls, they don't make it back to the ship. That can also involve you not making it back to the ship. There is an ending that it just ends right there and then. Everyone's wiped out, including Commander Shepard. This is what I'm talking about. When you go for the goal and you're just like, yo, there might not be a second one. Let's just do it. Everyone planning out for the second one. No. What you need to do is go for broke in your other games. If Mass Effect ended at part 1, I wouldn't be too sad. Again, they've done enough in that game to be like, you know what? Cool. Left us at a little cliffhanger, and if people wasn't feeling the story like that, again, it would have did enough for me to be like, I'm saddened that they didn't make another one, but they gave me enough to be like, you know what? This is what they were trying to accomplish, and other people didn't recognize its greatness. Part 2, with that suicide mission, going through the Omega 3 relay, dog. I'm nerding the fuck out right now, dog. I can't control myself. I'm grinning from ear to ear right now. It's just fucking great. Mass Effect 3. It all comes to an end in this game, man. It all comes to an end. Talking about Mass Effect. 11 years in the making. Well, yeah, it took me 11 years to get to it. Mass Effect. Just get into this, man. Everything that you knew would happen did happen. The Reapers showed up and started wiping people the fuck out. Wiping them. Humans. Asaris. Krogans. All the other ones. Again, I'm having mental brain farts among these other races. I should know them. But you know who I'm talking about. Taurians. Forgot about Garrus's race. But Solarians. Just come in and they want the smoke. You learn that these guys have been, from the previous games to now, you learn that these guys have been just doing this every cycle. They've just been doing these things repeatedly. All the choices you made from the other games come back here. All your major choices. Who you let live, who you let die, and hopefully you made the right choices when you got towards the end. When your team pulls back up. Again, some of the people that you had in part 2, they come in the game, but you can't join your squad. This time they decided to make the squad a little leaner, because the other one, you had part 2, you had a lot of teammates. A lot of teammates. This one brought back the OGs, and I think they gave you 2 more new characters. 2, right? 3 new characters. 3 new characters. Now, am I mad about that? No. Did I want to play with some of the other characters again, have them on my squad? Yes. But again, they had to tighten up to end this story. I would have loved to play with Rex on the team again, besides the DLC. Have Grunt on the team. Have Rex and Grunt on the team. That would be my team, dog. I'm Bionic, have Rex and Grunt just run through and just cause carnage. Just run through and cause carnage. Commander Shepard is slowly losing it. He's seeing a dead child. This guy's having nightmares. Picks again. He is the one, he or she, if you make a Commander Shepard a girl, is the one that's going to save the galaxy. You start out in jail in part 3. I forgot how long you were in there for, but you start out in jail. The rest of your team was literally out doing other things. I forgot to mention this. In part 2, Ashley doesn't even fuck with you because you're working with the ops. You're working with Cerberus. In part 3, Cerberus is unhinged. They're doing experiments on humans. They're back to business. You distance yourself from them afterwards in part 3 because you needed hard evidence. Again, it's kind of fucked up that you had to work with them for a bit, but again, they brought you back to life. I don't even know if they were the ones who put you in a predicament to die. We don't know that. Or at least I don't know that. I probably really need to look into that because I really need to know, did they set me up to get killed, to get murked? But again, the Lucid Man paid the money to bring me back in part 2. Part 3, the weight of the galaxies on his or hers shoulder. Commander Shepard, alright? When I say that Commander Shepard is built different, that's what I mean, dog. Built different. The struggles from part 1 to 2 to losing allies, to people turning their back on you, that you literally saved their lives. People you put in power plays, traitors that just surprisingly, people were planted into your team to spy on you. It was just the deviousness. The deviousness. That this was just crazy for this to even go so far. Your love interest sticking by you from 1 and 2 to 3. Again, I didn't talk about that in the first one, but that is something you can continue. The Renegade and Paragon thing, that's not actually focused on it too much in part 3. In part 2, that was heavy, 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 heavy. And it was just all out good story. Faster game loads in the Legendary Edition. They had a lot of elevator scenes when the people were just talking. They needed dialogue for the people just to talk. Now, hopefully they're just talking regular, because there was a lot of dialogue in part 1 in those elevator scenes. That's how they were hiding the whole little loading screens. The twists and turns, the more backstory with the characters, letting you know what they have been doing since the last time you met up with them. Again, Jacob is having a kid. Miranda is chasing her father. Sister drama again. Tally's now a corporal. Ashley, she she got promoted to Spectre. They wanted to be another Spectre. It's just like, yo, this is crazy. I've seen these people grow. She's less. She's more accepting. She's no longer just the space racist. I mean, alien racist. It's like you see these characters grow. Now, the Citadel DLC, fun times. They drop a little nugget. Again, if you didn't play it, I'd probably just get into it a little bit. You meet Joker for lunch or dinner, whatever it is, and these people just come up and try to kill you. You come to find out again that in this DLC that people trying to kill you, you fight through. People show up. Your whole team, if you've done it correctly, your whole team will show up to back you. Rex, Garrus, Tally, Liara, Ashley, some of the new people I can't remember on the top of my head, but you know the OGs, I fuck with the OGs heavy. They show up, try to save you and whatnot. Again, you've been with the team for so long. They're taking pot shots at you. They're talking about how you can't dance, which is Commander Shepard's fucking kryptonite. Like, that's his only thing, that he just can't dance. Like, he's basically does everything else, but the dancing they keep going back to, which is what I like. Like, they're not making him a monolith, him or her a monolith. My Commander Shepard was a guy in this final playthrough. I believe I was playing as a female in when I was playing it before the Legendary Edition came out. But again, the banter, letting you know that your team really fucks with you. The the background dialogue, it's just it it encouraged, like, because the things that they're bringing up, it encouraging playing the old ones. They're mentioning things that you've done, you guys went through, how they felt about certain things. They're making their characters more alive. Again, it's just a different beast that people, game developers, are just not really thinking of when they're actually making their games. Commander Anderson gives you one of his spots gives you a spot on the Citadel. That's when you throw a party and all this pops off. Again, freaking, it just hits you that this is the last time you're gonna see these characters. At the end of it, it's the end. Like, this is the end. So back through the Citadel DLC, you're walking through, you're trying to figure out who's trying to kill you, and you realize there's a clone of you. And again, the DLC was good, but I felt like they should have made you play as the other person for a little bit, the clone. Because the clone Shepard, he was just discarded by the Luciman because he couldn't live up to the actual Shepard. I'm the one I'm currently playing as, because again they had to clone me, build me back up, blah blah blah. But I didn't. I rose to the occasion. The other clone did not. They said that they just used them for parts or whatnot, which is cool. Great story. I like that. The girl that he's actually working with was the person who gave Elusiman the dossier for you to recruit your team in part two, which is again like that callback to part two. Again, you guys get me with the callbacks. Like again, that might be a throwaway line for people who didn't really play the other games or really was understanding. That was like, oh, boop, yes. She been knew about you. In she's been working around you since the last game, which was also great, great. Now, the darkness in part three. See, I remember, we're not winning all these fights. A lot of people are dying. Thane dies of his alien cancer. I'm just like, yo, I forgot to mention this. Rex in part two gets promoted to like the chief of all his people. Grunt is working with Rex, put him in his own special squad. Jack, she's freaking working with the Alliance with these biotic kids, training them, supporting them. Good old Garrus, loyal. He's with you through the whole series. I can say Garrus, Tally, and Liara. They're with you throughout the whole series. They have your back throughout the whole series. Even when you work with the space racist team, not Ashley, but the Cerberus, they still have your back. Even though they're like, yo, it's kind of crazy, blah blah blah. You have to still let them know that you still who you are, but they have your back. And you go to war with these people, and you see that their home planets are getting destroyed. You lose some of these people's planets. They lose. We're losing. When part 3 comes around, we are losing. And again, Commander Shepard and Normandy holds the line. We get in there and we finish the fight. Hashtag Xbox, but Xbox brought us this whole Mass Effect universe, but again, they just fell off. This is why. And then your game, once you get to the ending, you choose what your ending is. I'm gonna leave the endings alone. You realize, yeah, this is the end, man. Again, I can go back and play it, but the way they've ended off Mass Effect 3, they kind of paint themselves into a corner. Now, if they wanted to retcon the ending and gave you a streamlined ending as the official ending and whatnot, hey, and bring back Commander Shepard or have you work with one of the other races. Maybe you should start out. Maybe you shouldn't be human this time. Maybe you should be a different race. That is what I would be looking into. Because again, Mass Effect is, I'm going to say, when you go to the bar of greatest games of all time, the Legendary Edition has, I would say it would have no equal when we talk about greatest game of all time. Now, we can be like, oh, there's certain games that made a whole, let's just say, they put a genre game out there to the rest of the people. Those I would always get back to. But when we're talking about what they've actually accomplished with this specifically, it has no equals. This is literally the greatest game of all time. 1, 2, and 3. The Legendary Edition is literally the greatest game of all time. You might be like, oh, well, Mario Kart, Grand Theft Auto, Zelda, Splinter Cell, by far, if you look at everything they accomplished from the 1, 2, and 3, Mass Effect Legendary Edition has no equal. Has no equal. And I'm glad that they took it to where it needed to be. This story was told correctly, and the weight of your decisions when you get to the end. When you get to the end of the game, it hits different.